Money isn't about being rich. It's about having options. Why I choose to live simply. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start with a number that I think about almost every single day. The average American, by the time they retire, has spent roughly 90,000 hours at a job they didn't love, to buy things they didn't need, to impress people they didn't even like. 90,000 hours. That's over 10 straight years of your life, gone, traded for stuff that's probably sitting in a landfill right now, or collecting dust in a garage. And I used to be on track to do exactly that. I mean, look, I'm not rich. I want to say that right up front, because this isn't one of those videos where some guy pulls up in a rented Lamborghini and tells you to manifest abundance. I'm not that guy. I make a normal income. I've made less than $40,000 a year for most of my adult life. But here's the thing nobody tells you. I have more freedom right now, making less money than most of my friends, than almost anyone I know making six figures. And today, I want to explain why. Because the reframe I'm about to walk you through changed the entire way I look at money. And I think it can change the way you look at it too.
What money actually is. Here's what most people think money is. Money is status. Money is the nice car in the driveway, the new phone every year, the bigger house, the vacation photos. Money is supposed to prove something. But the reality is, that's not what money is. Money is options. That's it. That's the whole definition. Money is the ability to say no to things you don't want to do and yes to things you do want to do without your bank account making the decision for you. People kind of get this backwards. They chase the appearance of wealth, the man in the expensive suit, the leased BMW, and they end up with zero options because every dollar that comes in is already spoken for before it even hits their account. Meanwhile, the person living below their means, driving the 10-year-old Honda, quietly stacking money into an index fund every month, that person has options. That person can quit a toxic job. That person can take 6 months off if a parent gets sick. That person isn't looking rich. That person is rich in the only way that actually matters.
The 4 things I did. So today, I'm going to walk you through 4 specific decisions I made, real ones, not theoretical ones, that took me from feeling trapped in the paycheck-to-paycheck hamster wheel to feeling like I actually have a say in my own life. 4 things. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. The Wake-Up Call. I remember exactly where I was when this hit me. I was 24, sitting in my car in a Target parking lot, and I had just checked my bank account before payday. I had $43 to my name. $43, and rent was due in 4 days. And the thing is, from the outside, my life looked fine. I had decent clothes, I had a car that looked nice, I had a phone that was, at the time, the newest model. But none of that mattered, because I owned none of it, really. The credit card company owned it, the car loan owned it. I was renting an image of success and paying interest on it every single month. That's the disease. That's the actual disease going around in this country. Not poverty, but the performance of wealth. And it keeps people, including me back then, stuck in a cycle where you work harder and harder just to stay in the exact same place, like a hamster on a wheel, running as fast as it can, going absolutely nowhere. So chapter 1 of this story isn't a strategy. It's just a moment of honesty. I had to admit that the way I was living wasn't actually making me happy. It was just making me look a certain way to people who, frankly, weren't thinking about me nearly as much as I thought they were.
Chapter 2. The first decision. Living below my means on purpose. The first real decision I made was to stop trying to match the lifestyle of people around me. And I mean that specifically. I moved into a smaller apartment than I could technically afford. I kept my car for what ended up being 9 years, and I started cooking almost all of my meals at home. Now here's where people usually get frugality wrong, and I want to be really clear about this. Being cheap is not the same thing as being frugal. Being cheap is depriving yourself and everyone around you just to save $1, skipping a friend's wedding gift, haggling over a $2 coffee with your buddy. Frugality is different. Frugality is being intentional. It's spending with guilt on the things that genuinely matter to you and cutting ruthlessly on the things that don't. For me, that meant I didn't care about having a nice car. Zero interest, so that was an easy cut. But I did spend money on experiences with people I loved because that mattered to me. That's the whole trick.
Figure out your own big three and stop measuring yourself against someone else's. And speaking of the big three, this is something I think about constantly. For almost everyone, your financial life comes down to three categories: housing, transportation, and food. Not the $5 coffee, not the subscription you forgot about. Housing, transportation, food. If you get those three right, if you don't overextend on rent, if you don't finance a car you can't afford, if you don't eat out every single meal, you will outsave 90% of people who are obsessing over small stuff and ignoring the big three completely.
Chapter 3. The second decision. Automating my peace of mind. The second thing I did, and honestly this might be the most important one, is I stopped relying on discipline. I mean, I love the idea of being disciplined, but I also know myself. If I have to make the decision to save money every single week, some weeks I'm going to lose that fight. So instead, I made the decision one time, and then I automated it so I never had to make it again. The very same day my paycheck hits my account, a percentage moves automatically into a separate savings account before I ever see it or get tempted to spend it. That's the whole pay yourself first concept, and it sounds almost too simple to matter, but it changes everything. You're not fighting your own willpower every single week. You set it up once, and the system does the discipline for you. From there, once I had built an emergency fund, and I mean a real one, 6 to 12 months of basic expenses, sitting somewhere I couldn't touch it easily, everything shifted. That fund isn't there to make me money. It's there so that if something goes wrong, a job loss, a medical bill, a broken transmission, I'm not one emergency away from a financial disaster. That fund is peace of mind, sitting in a bank account. Only after that did I start automatically investing into low-cost index funds every single month. Not picking stocks, not trying to time the market, just steady, boring, automatic investing into the total market, month after month, letting compound growth do the actual work over decades. Chapter 4. The third decision. Redefining what enough means. Here's where it gets a little more personal, and maybe a little uncomfortable, because this one isn't about a spreadsheet. This one is about contentment. Somewhere along the way, I had to sit down and actually decide what enough meant to me. Not what enough meant to my neighbor, not what enough meant on Instagram, but what enough meant to me, specifically, in my actual life. And once I answered that question honestly, I stopped feeling this constant low-grade anxiety that I was falling behind. The truth is, there is no finish line if you're chasing what other people have. Someone will always have a bigger house. Someone will always have a newer car. That race has no end, which means playing it is a permanent losing position, no matter how much money you actually make. But contentment isn't the same as giving up ambition. It's just refusing to let someone else's definition of success run your financial life.
Chapter 5. The fourth decision. Thinking about my future self. The last decision, and maybe the one that ties everything together, is that I started making choices as if I were doing a favor for a person I actually cared about, my future self. Every dollar I don't waste today is a gift I'm giving to the version of me 5, 10, 20 years from now. Every dollar I do waste is basically a decision to make that future person's life a little bit harder. Once I started thinking about it that way, spending decisions got a lot easier because it stopped being about restriction and started being about responsibility to someone I actually love, myself, just later.
You don't need to be rich to have wealth. Here's the contrarian point I really want to leave you with. Rich and wealthy are not the same word, even though we use them interchangeably. Rich is income. Wealthy is options. You can have a huge income and be dead broke in terms of options because every dollar is already claimed by a lifestyle you built to impress people who genuinely are not tracking your life as closely as you think. Meanwhile, you can have a totally normal income, live below your means on purpose, automate the boring stuff, define your own version of enough, and end up with something most high earners never get: actual freedom. The ability to walk away from a bad job, the ability to take care of family without panicking about money, the ability to just breathe. That's not the man's definition of success. That's mine. And honestly, I think it should be yours too, on your own terms.
So if there's one thing I want you to take from this video, it's this. Stop measuring your financial life against everyone else's highlight reel. Figure out your own big three, automate your peace of mind, and remember that every dollar you don't waste today is a gift to the person you're going to be later. Money was never supposed to be about looking rich. It was always supposed to be about buying yourself options. And the sooner you make that switch in your head, the sooner this whole thing stops feeling like a hamster wheel and starts feeling like a life you're actually choosing on purpose. Thank you so much for watching. If this one hit home for you, you know what to do. And give this video a watch next. I think you'll like where it goes. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, muchas gracias.